Hello, my name is Will Matthews. I'm currently studying business management at Leeds Business School, and this is my 10-minute vlog of my interpretation of marketing myths. Throughout this video I will look at 4 myths and contrast them with reality. I will also be looking at business organisations and their orientations, and I will be doing a little self-review from weeks 1 to 3 from what I've learned from lectures and seminars. The first myth which I would like to discuss is that the customer is king or queen. For many businesses, the customer should always be considered the king or queen. Your customer is the most important asset for your company, and as once Henry Ford said, ultimately they're going to be the ones that pay your wages. Therefore, it is essential that you must place them at the heart of all business decision making and planning decisions. A customer's needs have to be considered, and you can use their needs as a drive towards making business decisions. This can be achieved by being transparent when it comes to communicating with your customers, and receiving and acting on their customer feedback can help your organisation grow stronger. I know I've had this situation before with BT when the internet was down for a good couple of weeks, and we rang them every time and they were giving me different answers every day. So eventually, as soon as they fixed it, would change because they just weren't being honest with it at all. So basically what BT failed to do was treat us like king or queen. Therefore we weren't no longer repeat purchases with them, and if you are brutally honest, you will ultimately enhance your profitability and achieve long-term customer loyalty. In Neil Richardson, John James and Neil Kelly's book, they give a perfect example of how not treating your customer like the king or queen can affect your profitability and perhaps lose your first mover advantage. So their example was Apple's failure to adapt the flash into their iPad, even though all other devices had this incorporated, like the iPhone had a flash in it. So this opened up the market, and competitors realised that if they put a flash in their tablets, they will get an advantage over Apple. So basically Apple lost out on a lot of customers because they failed to treat them like the king or queen and satisfy their needs of having a flash button. Here's an example of how advertising can affect sales. The Cadbury's Gorilla advert was released in 2007, and it's funny and bizarre, and it's just tied to a name brand, specifically designed to capture your attention, which it perfectly does, and show your brand name and nothing more, and it works perfectly. The advertising was very successful. In 2007, Cadbury's reported a 5% rise in revenue growth, which some was directly due to their advertising. Sky also reported that 58,000 people took the time to record the advert via the red button. This shows that the ad has rewatch value, as people recorded it and must have watched it several times. As well as this, the advertising was also published on YouTube and has 12 million hits, and Cadbury's have perfectly captured the fact that adverts can go viral, which really helps spread the word of mouth between people, which ultimately helps the advertisement campaign greatly. However, this is not to say that if you always advertise, it's always going to increase sales. If you have poor advertising techniques and poor management, there will be a failure of advertising. For example, setting up a billboard in a remote town in a secluded area will not be seen by very many people, as you fail to capture your target market. So if you want to get your advertising right, you need to make sure that you're aiming at your target market, otherwise it will have no impact on sales, and you need to make sure it's going to get out there and get seen. A satisfied customer is a loyal customer. Theoretically, a satisfied customer is a loyal customer, but in reality this is not always the case. Customer satisfaction is not customer loyalty. Of course, a company wants both, but it's very hard to achieve this. Mobile phone service is a good example of an industry with wide satisfaction but little loyalty. Many customers will leave their current carrier at the drop of an offer for a new smartphone or a prepaid card, yet their current service is perfectly satisfactory and fine. This was the case with me when, back in 08-09, when BlackBerry released their phone. I picked it up straight away and I loved it. I had it for about 2 years, upgrading each time, but as soon as the Apple iPhone came out, I switched immediately because the iPhone was just simply much better and had much more features, such as the App Store and the way you could use iMessage to contact friends. So what I'm trying to say is that providing good customer satisfaction, it will not always lead to loyalty, and it's very difficult to gain loyalty. For example, if a new competitor comes along and offers a new product with the same service, or not even the same service, but just overall a better product, many customers can change, and therefore they're not shown loyalty because they're not sticking with the brand. and this was definitely the case when I had the BlackBerry and switched to the iPhone. Myth number 4, a big name brand can sustain a high price. Today's consumers want to get the best prices, but offering your brand at a discount can affect profits and undermine viability. Smart brands utilize strategies to create and sustain a meaningful difference that helps consumers justify spending more. By identifying your audience, understanding your competition, and knowing your brand's meaningful difference, you can ensure that consumers perceive your brand as premium and worth a higher price. This allows big brand names to sustain high prices. If we take a look at Gucci, they have sustained high prices for a long time due to overall its Italian quality fashion design, as well as having more recognition and customer trust. Having a Gucci product does not mean just a piece of clothing, it means a lot more. Many celebrities use this brand, and customers want to follow in the footsteps of celebrities, so they will pay premium prices just to acquire this branding. So what I'm saying here is big brands that are well established in the market and have a good meaning among customers, and their brand is worth a lot more than just what it is. It gives off a perception to other people. They can often sustain high prices, and customers will be willing to pay this. The next thing I will discuss is business orientations and examples of organizations that fit orientations. The first example of business orientation is production. These companies aim to have an efficient way of building a quality product. These businesses will aim to have a high sales volume with low margins, for example McDonald's and Ford Motoring Company. The next orientation is product. Product businesses heavily focus on its product design. They aim to innovate their products and make changes for the better, which will keep customers coming back and create a unique selling point from its rivals. One example of this type of company would be Apple, who develop their product each year to keep customers coming back. For example, the iPhone 5, 5S, 6, 6S. A sales-orientated company aims to promote sales through promotions and strategies to promote their product. They often have the mindset of sell what we produce. For example, when you enter a computer electronics store, you could be approached by pushy sales members from various companies like Samsung or Bosch, and they're all looking to push their product onto you. Market-orientated businesses heavily focus on their customer wants and aim to satisfy their needs. They conduct a lot of market research and look to develop in-depth relationships with their customers. One example of this should be Walker's, the crisp company. They've recently brought out 4 new types of crisps from the past, and they're looking to find out which is the favourite. They're doing this by doing primary research on their customers, getting them to vote on which is their favourite, and I hope barbecue wins. Now I'll be discussing what I've learned from lectures 1 to 3 and the seminars as well. In week 1 I was told what marketing is. Marketing is where the customer is placed at the heart of all businesses, and it's more than just a function of business. It's a way of doing business, and everyone in the company should be involved with it. I've also learned the different arguments against marketing because I didn't actually know there was any for against it. It's interesting how it creates unnecessary products by depleting our resources, and also how it can sometimes be unethical by making products and services that we don't necessarily need but creates a want for them. I've also found out the different marketing orientations which I had not known from A-level study. In week 2 I learned that stakeholder analysis shows different groups of stakeholders involved in a business and which one of those will be most likely affected by decisions. So the one that most likely will be affected is in band 1. In band 1 these are the internal stakeholders such as your shareholders, employees, managers. In band 2 these are the connected stakeholders. Some examples of these would be your suppliers, your retailers, your customers. In band 3 these are your external stakeholders such as the government, who can set tax and regulations on you as well. They can impact the minimum wage as well. So and the press and the media as well as the local community also will be affected by what you do, but slightly less than those that are connected and internal. In week 3 we learned the difference between the types of consumers. We learned that consumers can be business to business or business to consumers. We also got to understand how globalization is changing customer behaviour. We're now seeing more companies shift from a sales orientation to a market orientation, where that places the needs and satisfaction of customers at the heart of the business. Okay, that's all my points discussed.